Hi everyone, pardon my appearance. This is kind of an impromptu message, sitting out here playing my guitar. I stopped to enjoy this bong hit here. I'll get back to that in a minute and finish it up. The weed is beautiful. It's almost legal in Washington. If you buy it from a recreational store that has received the proper license and paid the proper taxes to the Washington state government through the Cannabis Board. I'm sorry, the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Control Board. Let me get the words right here. Um, but our rights as medical patients that we've had since 1999, they change on July 1st. Medical grows will go away. So, well, the pot is legal. Well, I can smoke it in the privacy of my own home, behind closed doors where no one can see me, as long as I pay a hefty tax to the state government. That's one form of legality. It's not entirely what I had in mind in my teen years when I imagined legal weed. I don't know about you, but I imagined it growing everywhere. You're driving down the road, and there's the weed, and it's growing everywhere, and your neighbors, they've got plants, and, you've got competitions, like you've got rose growing competitions, or orchid growing competitions, right? But no, we're a long way from there. Even in Washington, where taking this bong hit is legal, it's not legal for me to grow it. And in the rare cases where I'm a patient who is allowed to grow it, it means that it's more than a mile away from any state-taxed cannabis. And that is still so much better than somebody in, say, Louisiana or Texas. Or, still at this point, Ohio. Definitely Florida has it. And those places all have it better, regardless of it being a felony, regardless of mandatory jail time that you have in some places in the United States. In other places in the world, we actually still have it as a capital crime. Not just to use cannabis, but to possess it, to grow it. We've got a long way to go. Washington, Colorado, Oregon, Alaska, California. They are pioneering states, and really, let's give it to California for being the first medical state. Give it to Jack Hare for really spearheading some of those things. Give it up for Dennis Perone, for Dr. Frank Lucido, for Lynette Shaw. These are the people who were pioneers before we ever had it possible to do the things we've done in Washington. They were making them real in California. And now that these dreams are becoming real in Washington, it's important for us, when we sit back and we enjoy our legal weed, or our illegal weed, or our remaining medical weed, whichever it happens to be that you're enjoying, we need to reflect on what our job is. What is our role in a state that has, quote, legalized cannabis? Is it to fight with each other? Or is it to go somewhere like a Louisiana or a Florida, where it's a felony? Is it time to move on and begin to address the Correctional Association at their annual meetings and discuss harm reduction as an option? Seattle Hemp Fest, which, regardless of how you feel about the politics of it, has definitely been instrumental in bringing together people and ideas and helping us build this snowballing effect that we see in 2016, where we can imagine a world where maybe one day I will drive down the road and see it lined with beautiful cannabis trees that people have been growing for 10 years. Crop after crop, not killing it. Because I've heard you can do that. Imagine if you could do it in Florida. Or Louisiana. It would be a beautiful thing. Imagine if we lived in a world that just recognized it were a plant. Where it was like the tomatoes I have growing outside. Or the potatoes I have growing outside. I ask you, when you smoke, when you enjoy the freedoms of the state that you're in, if that's what you're doing while you watch this, do you think about the ways we can move forward? And I apologize, I kind of went off. I brought up HempFest 25 years old, and being part of that snowballing effect. We'll be there this August. Many of the same people who've been there for at least a decade and a half, 2 decades. Some of them literally for the last 2.5 decades. Every year of their life. And we've attained a certain point. And one of the questions we need to ask ourselves moving forward, in my opinion, as activists for either that group or for any other group I've ever been a part of, is where do we go? Obviously, we are not done fighting. But it is the most important fight, truthfully, in the ironing out of details here at home. Or is it in reaching out to those places who have yet to attain our freedom? In my opinion, we could really go either way. I prefer branching out. I want to help those people in Louisiana. I want to help those kids in Florida. There's some people out there who I think understand what I mean. There's a reason that they donate first to the areas with the highest incarceration rates. Those places need us. They need our effort and our will, and their activists need our support and our education. So, as you enjoy your legal weed, I want you to all do yourself a favor. If you're an activist in a state where the weed you're smoking came from a medical dispensary, a legal medical grow, a medical marijuana shop, some means by which the voters or the legislature have said, move forward. I want you to enjoy that herb. Well, I'm going to enjoy this herb. With a little bit of a pat on the back, knowing that you and those close to you have done a good job to get us this far. And I'm going to ask you at the same time to reach out into the other areas, the other parts of the country and the world, as unified leaders in the fight to free this plant. Not just for our own medicinal use, not just for our own recreational use, not just for our own protected spiritual use, but for the same nourishment that we would get from a tomato, an apple, or a potato. It's a plant. And I don't need religion to tell me that if a plant grows out of the earth, a plant grows out of the earth. I don't need to draw on the Bible to reinforce it, even though I could. I encourage you all to move forward. Reach out to people in other areas. Send them those t-shirts first, buddy. You know who I'm talking to. Push the envelope in the places that need it pushed. And as our behavior becomes normalized, as the case may be, we'll be able to fight these other hurdles. We'll be able to get our right to homegrown. We'll be able to get more patient access to information, to science, to herbal medication. But the truth is, until we get more widespread acceptance of the legalities we have in Washington, Colorado, Oregon now, soon to be, I hope, California, Don't we get that a little bit more across the board? The rest of it's a harder push. So let's push to have these 19 to 25-year, let's push to have these 21 to 25-year-old kids in places like Texas and Louisiana not go to jail for life over a joint. Let's push for lesser sentences. And let's support each other where the fight is still not a fight for how we're going to treat the legal marijuana. But still, or cannabis, or what we're going to call it, or where we're going to get it, or who's going to profit from it. It's not why I got in this fight. When I was a kid, a 13-year-old kid, and I started smoking cannabis, it was weed everywhere. I wanted it free like the grass, and I wanted there to be people who cultivated beautiful plants, like we do roses and orchids. I thank the person who grew this weed. Tell you what, it is delicious, skunky pot like I haven't seen in a few years. Appreciate it. If you listen to the whole rant, I want to thank anybody who ever wrote a letter, signed a petition, gave a speech, sent a nickel or a dollar into a bucket to support a pro-legalization effort anywhere. I want to thank the Vivian McPeaks of the world for starting events. I brought up Jack Hare and Dennis Perone. It is the Jack Hares and the Dennis Perones of the world. It is the Lynette Shaws and the Dr. Frank Lucidos that push this movement forward. And we need to push it to where we're needed. We're not done. The effect is coming. The snowball is rolling downhill. We are winning. But we're not done. And if we stop, if you stop writing letters, if you stop attending events, if you stop participating in change, we won't get where we need to be. I'd say I apologize for being a little high in my rant, but I don't apologize. I'm happy to be a little bit high in my rant. I thank you for joining me for this bong hit with Mama Glow. I hope to see you the third weekend of August on the Seattle waterfront for HempFest, where I'll talk to you more about the 13th Amendment and the American Correctional Association. Until then, whatever it is you do to free the weed, I wish you luck, I wish you success, and may you have a beautiful day.